Welcome to this lecture looking at data presentation and analysis. In the previous lecture, we have talked about the types of data. What are the various types of variables that can be measured in an experiment? Now, we'll like to look at how do you analyze these data and present them in a fashion that is understandable by everyone. There are many software out there that can help you collect as well as analyze your data. The common ones that is used in SP are Minitab and Excel. Next time when you go out to the industry to work, you may also be exposed to other types of software such as SPSS, Stata, and R. This is a flowchart to show you the commonly used descriptive statistics and graphical illustrations that can help you present your data. When you're exploring your data, you can look at various descriptive statistics depending on whether the data is categorical or continuous. And depending on your research question as well as the data that you have, you will choose the appropriate graph to present your data. It could be a histogram, dot plot, or bar chart, or many other types of possible graphical illustrations. When we are looking at descriptive statistics, it is used as an estimation of parameters. When you use a point estimation, you are trying to look at the mean of a set of continuous quantitative data. So the mean is actually the average value for the continuous variable. In this example, we have taken various individuals from SP and look at their test score for a particular test. The mean of this test score will show you the average value for this group of students. Whereas if you calculate the standard deviation, you are measuring the spread of score within this data set. The bigger the standard deviation shows you that the wider the spread of scores, meaning that there are a lot of differences among the various individuals in this group in terms of their test score. The standard deviation can be calculated using this formula, but for the purpose of this course, will not require you to do the manual calculation. Instead, you will be using software such as Excel or Minitab to get the mean and standard deviation. Let me show you how to calculate the mean and standard deviation of a set of data. This is an example shown in Excel. To calculate the mean, you have to click on a box that you want your result to fall under. Then you go to Formula, and you can use either the auto sum or insert a specific function, or you can also choose more function and go under statistical. Average is the mean, so you click on the function average and you will have to select the test score and click OK. The mean in this case is 70.9091. For the standard deviation, same thing, you will put your cursor on a box that you would like the result to fall in. Then you go to More Function, Statistical, and look for Standard Deviation. Now you realize that there is a few different ones that you can use. Because we are looking at the standard deviation of a sample, we'll choose standard deviation.s. Since this is not the entire SP but just a sample of students within SP. Similarly, to insert into this box, all you have to do is to highlight the value and click OK. And there you have it. That is the standard deviation. After calculating the mean and standard deviation of your results, now you may want to plot your results on a graph to present it to the audience. But what kind of graph would be appropriate? First, let us look at 3 examples of graphs and understand what is wrong with them. Example A. In these studies, you are trying to look at the average bacterial growth over time. Do you think there is something missing in this graph? Firstly, there is no proper unit. The bacterial growth in this case have no unit, and the unit for the time is also missing. Secondly, as you can see, these are most likely to be the average growth of bacteria at the specific time point. However, you do not see any error bar. Okay, the error bar typically would represent the standard deviation of that particular time point. In this case, the error bar are missing. The third thing that is missing is there is no caption, figure title, as well as figure number. You have to have a figure number, for example, figure 1, followed by the title and caption. Having the word bacterial growth on top of the graph does not mean that this is a proper title. The second example shown here is supposed to show you different brands of cooking oil and the smoking temperature. Now, a line graph is not appropriate in this case. Instead, a bar graph should be used. Line graphs typically depict changes in trends, but in this case, you are not looking at various time points. You are looking at different brands of cooking oil. Therefore, a bar graph should be used instead. Once again, the figure number and the caption is missing. The caption could simply be cooking temperature of different brands of oil at its smoking point. In the third example, you are looking at the relationship between height and weight in a group of students. The first thing that you would have identified, of course, is the missing figure number as well as caption. And you do not have any labels for your X and Y axis. And lastly, a bar graph is not appropriate to indicate relationship between 2 different variables. If you want to look at the relationship between height and weight, instead of plotting height and weight separately on 2 different bars, you should plot it such that the X and Y axis is one of them is the height and the other one is the weight. Using a scatter plot in this case would be much more appropriate than a bar graph. There are many different types of graph out there. How do you know which type of graphs is most appropriate for your studies? Well, with experience, you will be able to tell. Some of the more common types of graphs include histogram, which typically shows you the frequency of a particular variable. So in this case, you see the distribution of height of the black cherry trees, and the frequency would show you that, for example, at the specific height, there are 3 cherry trees that fall within this height. And in this case, there are 10 cherry trees that is within this height range. So it shows you a distribution of the height of these black cherry trees in this particular sample. Another common type of graph is the bar graph, such as the one that is shown here. This graph shows you the color intensity at the various storage time, and it shows you that of 4 treatment group, including the control and 3 other treatment group in this case. You can see the mean color intensity of each of these treatment group at a specific time. And the arrow bar would show you the standard deviation for that particular sample. It is good for comparison among the different treatment group as well as at the various time point. Another common kind of graph to be used is the pie chart. Pie chart shows you the distribution of the various animals in this case. It will show you which one is the most abundant. The majority in this case is the mice, followed by rats and fish and amphibian, so on and so forth. They are not precise in the sense it will not show you the number of each of this sample, but they are good for showing the percentage of each of this animal in this particular case, so that you know which one is the most abundant, followed by which one, so on and so forth. It's good as a graphical representation. The next one is a line graph, such as the one here, looking at human population growth over time, over the years, looking at how the human population growth increase over time. Line graph is suitable to be used when you are trying to show a particular trend. In this case, you can see that the human population increase over time. So you can see this increasing trend by using a line graph. Next is the scatter plot. Scatter plot is useful when you are showing the relationship between two different variables. In this case, looking at this scatter plot, you are looking at the relationship between testis mass as well as the body mass of the animal. So by looking at this scatter plot, you can see that the higher the body mass, the higher the testis mass, as you can see this trend over here. Scatter plot is quite useful before you even go on to do a line graph, because you can see a trend that you are not able to expect. Lastly is the box plot, as indicated here. Looking at the speed of light as well as the 5 experiments that you are measuring the speed of light. So at each of these experiments, you can see the mean speed of light as well as the range of the speed of light, the highest and the lowest, and the dot typically indicate the outliers at each of these experiments. So you can see how as you look at the different experiment, how different the mean and the range look like. When you are making graphs, there are some guidelines that you have to follow. First, you have to know which type of graph that is most appropriate, depending on the research question and the type of data that you are showing. Second, obviously, you have to make sure that your source of data is error-free, because if there's any mistakes in the numbers, your graph will not be showing the actual trend. Make sure that you label the X and Y axis with the correct unit indicated. Appropriate scale is being used. The legend should be clear. The caption should be informative and tell your reader what the graph is about. What kind of relationship are you showing? Make sure that you refer to the tables and figures in your text. So if you were to make a graph and not refer to it, then that means the graph may not even be important at all. Lastly, for additional tips of how to make other types of figures, please refer to this website.